Thank you very much, Eleonora. Can you hear me well? You might think that we are very few, but we have hundreds of people actually being connected through internet. So please don't feel too lonely. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I work for ICBA, International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa, which is UNESCO's Category 1 institute for teacher policy and teacher development in Africa. We are based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, a capital of Africa, we sometimes say, because we are hosting a UN Economic Commission for Africa and African Union. Now, you might wonder why a Japanese woman born and raised in Tokyo heading an African institute. In fact, I have a little explanation. I started teaching in Zimbabwe in 1982, and I have been living and working in Africa since then, so the last 40 years. I have been to all African countries except Guinea-Bissau, that's 53 countries. So at the moment, I consider myself more African than Japanese. So ICBA has been working on peace and resilience building in Africa, together with Arigato International, which Eleanor is working, and also many countries, including Kenya, on the teachers' roles and the teachers' work on the peace and resilience building. It has been a gratifying experience recognizing a teacher's role in peace building and also testing and confirming their work. As you know, UNESCO was established for peace. The famous preamble of the UNESCO Constitution reads, "Since world start in the minds of men and women, it is in the minds of man and woman that the defense of peace must be constructed." This sentence brings tears into my eyes, that education must be a tool for constructing the defense of peace in the minds of young people. So teachers' roles are immense. We are in a TEST, Transforming Education Summit, the pre-summit meeting today. And I would like to share with you, I think you can see here, some of our work. Transformative Pedagogy for Peace Building, a guide for teachers. This was published in 2017 and has been used since then. Now we have a Transformative Pedagogy, a teacher's guide for peace and resilience building in North Africa. We have a version for Horn of Africa, as well as Sahel. And I wouldn't take a patent for transformative, but I was very happy, we were very happy, after 5 years, we named our teacher's guide as Transformative Pedagogy, that transforming education has become a buzzword for 21st century skills and also international education development community. We decided to call our teacher's guide as Transformative Pedagogy from our experience. While compiling the teacher's guide, we came to realize the process of peace and resilience education is truly transformative. Education for peace and resilience was transforming learning and learners, classrooms and schools, surrounding communities, and teachers themselves. It is an exciting process, and the word transformative was truly fitting, is truly fitting. We are very happy to see the words transformative and transforming used in this summit. Peace and resilience can be and should be at different levels. Individuals, groups like families, classrooms, and communities, and at a larger society. Learning is defined as 4 pillars in the DEROL report. Learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be. Learning to be an ethical, peace-loving, and responsible person requires other learnings: learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together. And I believe, and you will agree with me, I hope, learning to live together is one of the most important learnings in the 21st century, and this is what we are advocating for through our work in transformative pedagogy. Learning to live together peacefully is one of the most important 21st century skills, and by including this in education, teachers' roles are re-recognized and re-evaluated. Education, schools, and teachers are the most important institutions in this regard. So thank you very much for visiting this side event. I'm really excited, and I hope that we can have time for interaction later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yumiko. And I think over this summit, it is true that the transforming has become a buzzword, but we also have to go back to what we mean with transformation. And as you said, it's not only transforming the institutions and the curriculum, but it is transforming the teachers themselves, the teachers that are the very first role model for the learners. And it is also transforming the learners and encouraging them to be actors, to change injustices and inequalities around them. And on this purpose, I would like to introduce to all of you Akash, that is connected with us through the Zoom. So Akash is a young person. He has, since a very young age, volunteered in Shanti Ashram, which is an ashram in India that serves thousands of people in Coimbatore, so in the southern part of India. And Akash, can you please confirm you're on? I cannot see you on the screen.
Where is that?
Hello?
Technician.
He was there before, and I cannot see him now. And the technician is also not here, so we'll see what to do about that. Maybe in the meanwhile, as we wait for this to be handled, we can pass to Dr. Icha.
Yes,
all right, and we'll try to have the PowerPoint on for you because the technician has also disappeared for that, but we'll see how we manage. And Dr. Khadija, for you, the question, Dr. Khadija is the chairperson of the Indonesia National Commission for UNESCO, and she can share a bit more about herself also with you later. But the question for you, Dr. Khadija, is we know that Indonesia has been working on character education, and that this is really inspired by ethics education and by really promoting this call to be ethical, to be responsive to the context, and to be, in a way, global citizens. Or also, as before Mrs. Giannini was saying, citizens of the planet. So in a really more encompassing and holistic view of education and character development. And so it's this citizenship of the planet to really be contributing to peace building and to social cohesion. So the question here is really like, what educational policies and teacher training programs have proved successful for you in promoting a culture of learning to live together, and as we heard also from Dr. Yumiko, on learning to be, in the context of the pluralist society that is Indonesia today. And so tell us a little bit both about the opportunities, the practices, because I think here we're all into teachers training, so the practicalities of that for the classroom, and the challenges as well. So something.
Yes. Thank you very much, Eleanor. First of all, Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Mary. So here on the screen, you can see 5 religions and more or less 17,000 I learned, and there are 800 languages, functional languages. But we luckily have Indonesian national language as our lingua franca. Then this is the context of Indonesia and why it is very important to have one thing to develop the nation character. The national education system in Indonesia always put values of 5 principles in Indonesia, 5 state principles, that is Pancasila. National education should improve. I cannot move on.
No?
No.
Okay, so I will move it from there.
Okay, thank you. So to make sure that the unity in terms of nationally is guaranteed, the national education mandated the 5 principles of Pancasila, and it should improve the life of the nation and develop Indonesian people fully, intellectually, morally, spiritually, physically, and socially. I see that this is very important to talk about this context and why Pancasila then become our guidance in developing the student's character. And what are the 5 philosophy of Pancasila as the state ideology? First, next please, is monotheism, belief in one God. And then civilized humanity, including tolerance to all people, national unity, deliberative democracy, and social justice. So this is our 5 state ideology, which now in this year and last year, since last year, has become the core values in character development. Next, please. So here is how Indonesia fosters character development for all students through formal education. Next, first, before 2015, the character development of our students rely on subject matters that relates to character development, primarily religion and civic education. So we developed through it. And then in 2015, the government see the importance of developing a special program on the development of characters and focus on 5 core values. Still religiosity, because in the state philosophy, religion is believing in God is number 1. Then we put this into the 5 core values in character program. Religiosity, nationalism, independency, mutual cooperation, and integrity. Then, in 2017, the government looked at the more important role of character development, and a presidential decree was issued to strengthen character education, and the program, things that is in 2015 was a program, then in 2017 become and transformed into character strengthening center. So it becomes a center now. And then with the new government in 2020, which is now still developing, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology of the Republic of Indonesia issued a new policy which called emancipated learning or Merdeka Belajar. This is to achieve the function of education, which include Pancasila as the core value in developing students' character. Then now, since the 2020, when the new government issued Merdeka curriculum, and then before that, pandemic, now we experienced a pandemic time. So now there are 3 curricula used in Indonesian schools. First, that is the 2013 curriculum, which was started in 2013. And then during the pandemic time, the government gave flexibility for schools to develop their emergency curriculum, focus on essential subject matters, depending on where our students are. And then the last one, which is now implemented in only 2,500 schools, we call it Curriculum Merdeka. And so schools are free to choose which curriculum is more suitable to their context. Now, in the new curriculum, the character development is done through strengthening Pancasila students' profile embedded in the curriculum. And then for the rest of schools which has not yet implementing the new curriculum, then they develop through others, through the 2 subjects that I have mentioned, and also look at this program and materials from Character Strengthening Center. So this is how Indonesia developed students' character at this time. And then, if we go back to Pancasila as the state ideology, this is become the core value for all Indonesian students because it is mandated in the state regulation. And what are those 5 I have mentioned earlier? And so let me go back. So this is the 5, the core, and then now there are 2 agents that develop character. The first one, as I mentioned earlier, is the Character Strengthening Center, and it has lots of materials they share in the website of Cerdas Berkarakter Kemendikbud, etc. This is still in our language. And there are lots of materials for teachers to download, to talk about, because they provide platform where teachers can communicate one another and share their practice in their school. This is to make sure that schools which are not yet implementing the new curriculum still get lots of teaching materials in the center, from the center. So now Pancasila as the state philosophy is integrated in the education system as ultimate goal of students' character development since 2020. So the emancipated learning, the education transforming program nurture Pancasila as a core of Indonesian students' profile as translated into 6 dimensions of Pancasila students' profile. This is what we are implementing in 2,500 schools. And they are morality, global citizenship, collaboration, self-motivation, critical thinking, and creativity. If you look at how the character education in Indonesia developed, it becomes now more and more specific into fulfilling the need of our young generation. And how to achieve it? Then the profile, the sixth dimension is integrated in the teaching and learning process. Plus, there is a project of strengthening Pancasila students' profile. So there are two ways to achieve the Indonesian students' profile, Pancasila students' profile. So from this initiative, from the sixth dimension, the central government offered 7 global themes for the project: sustainable lifestyle, local wisdom, unity in diversity, developing well-being, democracy, entrepreneurship, engineering and technology to build the state. So schools are free to choose 1 or 2 themes of this project and then develop it in their context. So this is just the core theme which schools can choose to fit the need of their students. Now, there are at least 4 commitments from the government. First of all, that all schools implementing the new curriculum should allocate 20% of learning time to focus on strengthening Pancasila students' profile project. So from 100% of learning time, 20% should be allocated for project. And then provide guidelines for school on how to implement the project. Lots of guidelines have been produced to help teachers to choose how they implement it in their schools. And then provide a platform for teachers' learning, so it becomes a learning community for teachers. And then number 4, which is missing in here, is providing module on socio-emotional learning in pre-service teacher education as well as in service teacher education, professional development. So I'm sorry I missed the number 4. And then there are at least 4 things that should be considered to ensure sustainability. First of all is developing trust. This is now the efforts that should be put by the central government and all the stakeholders to develop trust that this initiative in developing students' character is, is in line with the state philosophy. And then making sure that all teacher educators are on board, because sometimes we can go to teachers and make sure that teachers can adopt this and that from the government initiative, but if teacher educators are not on board, then it will confuse the teachers. And then making sure that the next authority doesn't do any major changes before impact can be seen. This is very important to consider because otherwise things that when we talk about ethics, character building, it's not something that can be seen on the paper, on the score, but in the behavior in the society. So this is something that we have to anticipate. And last but not least, all the stakeholders need to keep on improving the practice by sharing best practices. thank you very much, and I hope this helped all of us to look at better and better initiative to improve the quality of character of our new generation. Thank you, Eleanor. Back to you. Oh, this is very long.
Thank you, Dr. Sirija, and thank you for highlighting the freedom, giving the freedom to the schools to choose among the thematic areas, because I think when we talk about ethics education, values-based education, we need to leave the creativity and the freedom to the teachers to choose what thematics, and to the learners, because some learners may be affected by some issues. In Maldives, learners might be affected by global warming much more than learners in other contexts that are affected by conflict and, ethnic divisions. So we need to give that space for exploration and creativity and that freedom, and really within that 20% that should be dedicated. So thank you for providing these very concrete examples. Let's try once again to connect with Akash. Akash, if you are there, you can unmute yourself and put your video on if the internet connection is working for you. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think something internet issue, and also the screen sharing logged me out so many times. I think now we don't have any screen share, so that I mean.
Okay, but we can hear you. So you can, yes, and now we can see you as well. That's great, Akash, welcome. So first of all, I think deep apologies that Akash could not be here with us. We've been notified that this event was accepted only 1 week ago. Akash is based in India. He doesn't own a Schengen visa just like that. And so he was unable to travel here to Paris. And we're deeply sorry for this, Akash. This happened to several delegates in this Transforming Education Pre-Summit. And I think it has to be acknowledged that deep inequality that this represents. And we're very sorry you couldn't be here with us in person. But nevertheless, you are here with us in the internet, and we would like for you to really share with us your beautiful journey of being an engaged young person and how you encounter ethics education and how this is really shaping the way you volunteer in the community. Thank you, Akash. Over to you.
Thank you, Laura, for the sorry. It doesn't mean sorry, because it's always a pleasure to be on the board with great experts. I think it was a moment of honor for me to be in the panel, and it tells a story. It itself tells a story that how I transformed myself through the ethics education program. So an NGO in India, and also has been a part of ethics education program since 2017, and it's been quite a long journey since it also has only 5 years from now. But ethics education helped me a lot to understand my character, because I think education gives all of us knowledge, all of us some progress. But what gives us the practice to gain the wisdom from the knowledge? What gives us the procedure to gain the wisdom from knowledge? I think ethics education gives that to me, because there is always difference or there is always some speciality to the doctor who empathize on his patients than the normal doctor. There's always a special there who took responsibility to take care of the children on the class. And also there is always a special engineer who respect the values of the team. So these are the ethical values that mold your education. So education alone won't give you, progress or development. But education with the addition of ethics and integrity will provide us and has provided me the path to wisdom and also a path to seek knowledge in a more effective way. I think everyone here will represent will represent ourselves as humans before representing our identity, because I represent myself as Akash before representing myself as volunteer or a student of mathematics or etc. So the common identity here is humanity. So how we can achieve that? Education with ethics, education with the more values of respect, responsibility, and also the most reconciliation. So I just want to, I would like to share one experience I had recently. So I was just going to Shanti Ashram for the scholarship awarding ceremony, Balasanti scholarship awarding ceremony, and I had the opportunity to meet one child there. So I was having a conversation with him that what is his favorite subject, how he's doing, and what is the subject he fear of, and he is going good. I'm enjoying the school. Tamil is good. The English language is good. I'm studying it well, and the science is also good. But I think I can't understand maths easily. I think it is difficult for me, and he said. So I asked him immediately that why can't you go to some classes, some tuition classes, so you can improve in mathematics. And now you know that I am paying school fees with the scholarship from Shanti Ashram, so how can I afford that tuition? He said, and immediately, why not I can give a class which makes maths easier to the student to make their vulnerable background not seen. So to come out a vulnerable background, so not I can do that. So I discussed with the president of Shanti Ashram and the youth leadership program. So we came up with an initiative called Max Matters. So we started that initiative, and we are doing it for the vulnerable children to understand maths better. Why I'm saying that in this regard is because Akash, a student of mathematics, can't do that. Akash, student of mathematics, who learned ethics education, who practiced ethics education for several years, is only possible to do that. So that's the transformation ethics education gives every individual. That's the transformation ethics gave me. So the values are important. So that's the thing I want to share here. And also I'm privileged that in this discussion I'm the youngest person in the panel. So it's been always representing that Unesco and the Arigato International are hearing the voices from youth and children. It's not once, it's not twice, it's not thrice. Every time you come to them, they hear your voices. So that's the quality we have to improve to make a peaceful, a peace-building society. When you're hearing children, when you're hearing youth, you will empower the society. You will empower the children and youth. I think teachers and educators have the major role to do that. I think I just want to conclude. I just want to conclude with a line that children and the younger generation don't just they have a lot of things to say. In that way, I'm privileged and honored for getting me this opportunity in saying what I want to say and what I want to look forward. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Akash, and thank you for these beautiful reminders that goes with Dr. Chudija was also saying, the building of identity and character. We're not only one thing. Akash is not only a brilliant student of mathematics, Akash is also the person that is responding to the vulnerable children in the community, to the HIV-affected children in the community, and that is really caring and loving about them. And it's the journey of ethics education that made you care about those demands and something that should not be seen as an add-on and as an optional thing in the education system, but should really be built in, because valuing the values and really valuing the humanity, as you said, in everyone is really central of this education system. And on the whole, lifelong learning, as we have repeatedly heard in this Transforming Education Pre-Summit. So thank you very much, Akash, for this testimony. And I would like to pass now from India to Kenya. So, and really, I know Mary has been a champion of learning to live together, a champion of really character development, values-based education. So we would like to reflect together, Mary, on the journey of Kenya. So on the journey that has been, as the journey of Indonesia, journey of reform, to really institutionalize value-based education and to really allow teachers to have venues for strengthening their skills in promoting values-based education. So, Mary, the floor is yours. Please share the journey with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eleonora, for the floor. And I'm really glad that I'm coming in after that very powerful presentation by Shodija, showing us the Indonesian experience, and also from Akasha, who talked to us about his experience as a youth. And I think what we are looking forward to is to have more of Akashas in our communities. And I think that we would say we are making some steps towards promoting value-based education in our countries. So I want to tell the story of Kenya. I think our honest story of looking into matters, value-based education, peace building, and character formation dates back to the time when we started, of course, having our formal curriculums. And if you explore our formal curriculums, they have provisions of that. But I want to say that in 2007, we went through a major transformation. That's after a national crisis that we had, where we had nationwide violence. And as the education sector, we began to look at matters, value-based, peace-building issues seriously. And I remember at that time, we immediately put in place an emergency response that was looking at training teachers on peace education and helping them, to understand what the skills that they needed to put in place at that particular time. And we put in materials that were to support teachers in that process. This culminated into the development of an education sector policy on peace education. After that part of response, or looking at matters, peace education was we went through that. We opened ourselves to learn, and that was when the global citizenship education concept was also emerging, 2000, and I remember there were quite a number of engagements around global citizenship education, and I remember us sharing our experience of our peace education program in that conceptualization process. So we learned from that process, and we have received a lot of documents also from UNESCO to help us conceptualize that better. Also, we opened up ourselves to also learn from other programs that were existing, and that's how we came to get engaged to the Learning to Live Together program, the UNESCO ICBA program, which we have implemented in our country, and other programs just to learn. And we would integrate an element of evidence in some of these programs, not all of them, because we wanted to learn. And then in 2017, 2015, an opportunity provided itself where Kenya is going through a major curriculum reform process. And we are moving towards a curriculum, a competency curriculum. And this is a major opportunity because initially when we were doing peace education, we were asking our teachers to infuse peace education. So they had a separate curriculum for peace education and value-based matters, and then they would infuse it into the curriculum. So this opportunity now was a major one for us. And what we have done in the curriculum framework, and it is online. You can be able to just download it. If you say curriculum framework for Kenya, you will be able to get it. We have identified what skills do we want to implement through our curriculum. And you can see we have both foundational skills and we have socio-emotional learning skills, just like what I have seen for Indonesia. We have also identified ourselves what are the values that we want to promote in our curriculum. And there are 8 values that are clearly identified. So across board, we are looking at these matters. So we learned a lot from the Learning to Live Together program. And especially in terms of how do you integrate these matters into, what do you integrate? So we have moved and we have integrated that into our curriculum, and it is implemented across board. We have some key learning areas. We are no longer calling them subjects, we are calling them learning areas. We have key learning areas that actually are the housing, value-based education, peace building. We actually call them pertinent and contemporary issues when we are conceptualizing our curriculum. And if you look at, we have life skills education, we have community service learning, we have citizenship education and religious education, but you also still find elements of it across board. But this time there is a difference, that it is systematically mainstreamed. We have a mainstreaming matrix. So if you want to know where will we find ethics education in grade 4, the mainstreaming matrix tells you go to this lesson, go to this grade, go to this class, and you will find it mainstreamed. And it even stipulates the content and the skills that are mainstreamed at that level. So that is really exciting for us. It's a major achievement because we can be able to now not just implement it, but we know where it is for purposes of assessment. We know where it is for purposes of even reviewing, unlike in the past where we were not very sure where it was. So we have also moved forward to build out the capacity, this was precedented by building of capacities of curriculum developers. Arigato International came in handy to do that with us. And the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, has also developed guidelines for mainstreaming ESD and GCD. For us, we are unable to see the disconnect. So as we talk about matters, value-based education, peace education, we find ourselves moving into education for sustainable development. So we have also developed guidelines that are guiding mainstreaming of these aspects in TVET education and in universities. So we are trying, we have clear systems across board to look at all those things. I would also want to talk briefly about mainstreaming into teacher education policies. And we have focused both on pre and in-service training. Right now, we have just finalized the revised curriculum for teacher education, which now captures the new spirit of competency-based curriculum. We are now moving towards the capacity building of our teachers. But not to say that we have also built the capacity of our in-service teachers. We have targeted teacher education, and especially through the universities and also the teacher training colleges. We have also tried to link, because we realize sometimes training happens for 3 years in a university, and the teacher gets out, but they only get to know or to get the real experience of these issues. Maybe in Kenya, sometimes it takes you like 2 to 3 years to be employed after you have qualified. So we realized that we needed to provide opportunities for people who are in training to really have an experience. And therefore, we targeted the teacher trainees who are just about to go for their teaching practice, but we also linked training the teacher education institutions with the schools that are around them. And that we realized that that's something that has not been happening. So the teacher education institutions exist as an island, and they only link with the schools around them for teaching practice, and that's all. But there is a lot of capacities that we felt could actually revolve around those schools. And also, we can use those schools as centers of excellence for value-based education and matters socio-emotional learning. So we integrate, because teachers, there's the regular training of teachers. So what is this new energy that we are bringing into this space? And it is safe learning environment, how teachers can foster safe learning environment for learners. Collaborative learning, where the teacher is not the one who is the holder of knowledge and the learners are the recipients, but we can have that cyclical process where both of them learn from each other, that there's a very strong focus on values, that we are using innovative methodologies that can provide transformation so that it leads to behavior change. And one thing that we are strongly looking at is developing a reflective teacher, because and also providing spaces for teachers to collaboratively reflect on learning, so that we can be able to foster transformations. And finally, what lessons are we sharing? Because we've been in this since 2007. And I want to say there are I have a long list of them. I may not go through all of them, but I just want to say value-based peace education, all these areas that focus on socio-emotional learning need to foster transformations for both the teachers and the learners. And therefore, when we train our teachers, we do not just train them to go and teach. We first of all use like 1 or 2 days of the trainings, focusing on the teacher so that we can see how to transform the teacher. It's important to recognize the symbiotic relationship between value-based or socio-emotional learning and other foundational skills. And we have realized that when you improve socio-emotional learning, you inadvertently also improve numeracy, you improve literacy. And government support and goodwill is very critical, and I have heard the same from Indonesia. And while large classes can hinder, we have very large, in some of our places we have large classes, and this can hinder interaction. But this can be mitigated by having how we have innovated this is using peer learning, integrating peer learning with the very strong support of the teachers. And we have also engaged youth within communities to come in and support teachers as they do some of these programs. And it's because we know our teachers are sometimes overwhelmed. So we have had youth coming into the schools. We first of all train them, then they come into the schools and support the teachers to implement some of these programs. There is one challenge we know, or going forward, we need to leverage on ICT. How can we use ICT for these areas? Coming up with very good programs that are virtual that learners can engage with. Children and young people in learning institutions can actively participate and provide leadership, not just followers, to provide solutions to challenges in their communities. And this we have done through community, school community projects, where children, even young children, have come up with very strong proposals and have implemented some activities towards addressing some of the challenges that they face. And I think one that still remains in my mind is where children told us that they are so sad that because of conflict in their community, there are some children who pulled out of their school because they belonged to another community and they were not feeling safe in their community. And they were living across a river. And they said, we want to take the risk to be the first people of our community to cross the river and reach out to our colleagues so that they can come to school. And that was very empowering. And out of that initiative, 14 children came back to school. And I said, children can also come up with solutions that can actually have an impact in some of the challenges that we are dealing with in our society. Finally, as I move to conclude, I also want to say The education initiatives need to be backed by very strong community initiatives. So sometimes you train children on how they need to relate well with each other, but when they go to the community, the messaging is different, and that used to create a conflict in the minds of the learners. So finally, my conclusion is there is still a lot to learn in this area, and I call upon all of us to integrate evidence gathering and especially for projects that can be implemented in large scale, because we have good practices for small scale projects, but I think as governments we are still seeking to see these initiatives that have worked well on a large scale. And I think we are looking forward to learn from Indonesia with their very, very, innovative projects, and we are waiting to hear from you as you implement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you for really insisting on this idea of moving from classroom to action. I mean, we cannot have values-based education and character education if we're focusing on what is happening in the classroom. And as teachers, we should feel empowered and we should feel safe to also invite other community stakeholders in the classroom, not only to help us, as you say, with peer learning, but also to share their experiences, their diversity with the learners in the classroom and in the school, so that the school really becomes a lab for practicing values-based education, for practicing this transformation that we want to see. And before we finish today, I think we really wanted to open the floor for questions. So if you have any questions, dear participants, please raise your hand, turn on your mic, and feel free to take the floor. I know it's after lunch. Me, myself, I didn't have a coffee, so please.
I want to ask about assessment. Because when we are dealing with subjects, we normally end it up with an assessment, and you know how kids are doing. How do you assess ethics education? And sometimes when the subjects are not being subjected to assessments, even at national level assessments, teachers tend to relax on them. They don't quite teach them. And so it becomes wasted effort to an extent. Yes, so I just wanted to learn around that.
Please, I think maybe this is a question for all the three panelists. You can elaborate on that. And it's a very key question. Thank you for this question.
I'm sure these questions ring to every teacher's head. Because whenever we introduce this character education, teacher always asks how to assess and how to give a score. In my opinion, in my personal opinion, it is not about whether it is assessed in terms of giving score to the students or not, but I think we have to go through like an interactive assessment with the classroom, talking about the values that has been introduced in this, let's say in this semester, there are 3 values introduced to the class, and then we focus on discussing it with the students to assess whether they buy in all the 3 values in this semester. That's probably can not just giving the students that their effort is valued in terms of score, but more than that, it raised their awareness that it should be with them. They should develop it within their life and not just because it is being assessed. So I think interactive assessment in the classroom can be one alternative to assess values or ethics or character. I think this is based on my experience for 7 years dealing with character development and character education in Indonesia.
Probably want to respond to this, and I can get the speakers, where the speaker is coming from. And I want to say it's a challenge also for all of us, even in Kenya. It's been a challenge, and especially when we were implementing before the competency-based curriculum. But after the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, within it, we are now moving towards competency-based assessment. And we have integrated an element of formative assessment that's going to account for part of the overall. And we are trying to remove the high-stakes examinations. Of course, it's not easy. We are now moving to our first grade that's going to be evaluated under the competence-based curriculum. And I can tell you, the parents are saying, are our children ready for the examination, because that's what is in their minds. And we have learned now to trust our teachers for the evaluation. And I want to share an experience from remember I said we have learned from many programs. So in one of the programs that we implemented, which is Learning to Live Together, we integrated various levels of assessment of our learners. So first of all, when the teacher taught, they first of all evaluated and said, how do I feel about this lesson? And there were some specific areas within the curriculum where they needed to give that feedback. Then from there, the learners, we had very innovative ways of gathering learners' feedback. One of them was through smileys. So what do the children feel about this lesson? And they would tick against a smiley. Sometimes they would stand as a group, against a smiley and say, and then you can ask them, why are you standing here? And they will explain to you. So that was another form of assessment. Another one was through the stories. What stories are they? The change stories from the learners. So they would give us that. But at the national level, when we were evaluating, we tried to integrate socio-emotional learning into our national assessment. But we were able to look at some of the skills. I wouldn't say we have been able to integrate all the skills, but at least we made an attempt for grade 5 to integrate an element of socio-emotional learning into it. So we are learning as we move on, and that's why my conclusion was, I think we all need to learn together so that we can have our teachers take this matter seriously, that socio-emotional learning is now viewed on the same line with numeracy and interest and literacy as foundational skills, and we need to take them seriously. And they have a symbiotic relationship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I tend to agree with the two previous speakers, but excellent. How do we assess ethics education and peace education, which is not the subject like mathematics and science? It is a very important question, and that really relates to transforming education agenda, because we are coming into a new way of learning, new way of assessment. Personally, I think the most valuable assessment is classrooms, communities are peaceful and can resolve the conflict. That would be the ultimate assessment, but it might take some time. So we look at awareness of the children, awareness of the teachers, but the 21st century schools are not just teaching and examinations. I think we are going to include more on the fundamental skills acquisition and the fundamental learning, which is a bit difficult to assess, but I think we have to look for the way. Thank you. I think there's another.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you very much for those wonderful presentations. I wanted to find out how you're advancing ethics education amongst learners with various disabilities.
Yeah, we can take both.
Sure. Bill Gaudelli, Lehigh University. I'm curious about the absence.
Thank you. So I think, the first question is again, maybe for all the three speakers, and the second question maybe as well. But I just wanted to highlight that we have shared with you a policy paper on fostering ethics education, and then you can see something about the framing of ethics education. There is actually a child rights-based approach. So it is framed around the Convention of the Right of the Child and very much looking at the holistic development as by the convention. So in this sense, there is really a continuum between the rights framework and ethics education, and it's really embedded within the framework and within the different subjects. And for the second question, please, maybe we go the other way around. Yumiko, you can start about including learners with disabilities.
Thank you very much. I think ethics education and inclusive education, as well as children with disabilities, is a very important element. And we have examples that when a child or children with disabilities are integrated in the classrooms, it has a very positive effect. So that shows that inclusiveness is very, very important in ethics education, and really that's the essence of learning to live together. Declaration of Human Rights, very important. We have witnessed in some schools and classes where they have peace clubs and so on. And then they do research, and the Declaration of Human Rights are coming as one of the most important documents. But we would like children and learners and the teachers to find it through their research. So yes, that's very important. It's one of the good learning materials. Thank you.
So on learners with disabilities, because I think the human rights issue has been tackled, I want to maybe zero down on learners with disabilities. I think this is an area that I would want to acknowledge from my personal experience, not necessarily on a government platform, that we are still facing challenges, and these are areas that we really need to focus our attention on. And I want to cite an example. Recently, we were conducting a research to see how the mental health of our learners has been affected. It's more of a national study. And we realized that the tools that we had were actually not very admissible to learners with hearing disability, because they use a different language, and we had not taken the tools to be aligned to that language. And therefore, I think we need to put our lessons again together on these matters. I know there are good areas that we can cite, that where we have, that they are in school. They have come in school. Value-based education also, it has a lot of activity-oriented, there are so many activities. How do you engage the learners with physical disability? And this we are confronted with every other day. I know that the teachers have been using their initiatives to try and incorporate these learners. But I think we need now to look into issues of having even some guidelines that can tell us about how value-based education fits in with such learners. And you don't find such guidelines even global guidelines that are telling us something about this. So I think it's an area we all need to work on because we do not have very clear frameworks. And I would want to say that even in the curriculum, we have a strong approach on including disabilities. But I want to say in practice, there are still challenges that we need to handle to ensure that they are comprehensively addressed and we are not having these shocks, realizing that on the ground, we have not adequately prepared for them. I think that would be my comment. Thank you.
I think to answer the questions on how to handle students with disability, talking about ethic education, character education, we talk about human behavior, human language, which I think that it cannot be segmented like subject matter. So modeling from the adult is the key to develop ethics, characters, or value. In this case, by developing the positive environment in the classroom, in the school, then I'm sure automatically students with disability has been included in developing their character and their whatever you call it. I am very familiar with using character, so I keep on using character. So I think modeling from the adult in the surrounding is very important. It's vital. And talking about the human rights, I think in the context of Indonesia, this is why we use the philosophy, the state philosophy, to be included in the character development of students, because it has highlighted human rights from the global perspective. And in this dimension, sixth dimension that is introduced in this new curriculum, there is one dimension from the six is talking about diversity in unity in global diversity. That is to encounter human rights.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for these clarifications. Is there another question? Please.
Thank you, Leonora. I really just wanted to make two really very quick comments about the political will and the sustainability and longevity of values-based education, character education, etc. It's really good to know that, of course, policymakers and political leaders need to understand the value and that they ingrain it themselves into the curriculum, into the practice, and become role models themselves, hopefully. And about the sustainability and longevity, there was recently a publication that Unesco had made about the readiness of teachers to actually teach all these value-based education, GCED, ESD. I think Bill is right here. He was one of the researchers doing it. And the idea that they themselves need help, teachers and the educators. They have questions on how to teach these value-based subjects, but to give them the freedom to be on the context. If a certain issue is much more important in this region or in that region, that they will be able to well, we're hoping that they would understand their students more, their context more, and so this will hopefully then translate to how it becomes ingrained in their students, etc. And one last thing is about assessment and how the 1974 recommendation hopefully will be able to help kind of put everything in the framework of how to assess value-based education, GCED, ESD, in the way national member states are, how much effort they're putting in towards these very, very important subjects. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for these comments. I think unless there are any other comments, we might head towards closing this. Please.
One more. I'll burn a blanket if I don't say it. That's an expression in my country. When you are agitating to still say something, you say, "I'll burn a blanket if I will not say it." So when our sister from Indonesia was explaining about role modeling, I found it unsettling within me when she talked about the elders in society to be modeling the behaviors of the little ones. I'm like, it should be the reverse, because isn't it us grown-ups who are sowing seeds of religious intolerance in our children? So who do they model? Isn't it us who are failing to resolve conflicts and resolving to going to wars? Isn't it adults? So I don't think as adults we have the moral standing to say, come on, look at us, model us in terms of conflict resolution. Come on, model us in terms of tolerance in society. We are not the best examples from whom children could be modeling anything at all. If you leave children to be playing Muslims, Christians, Hindus, they'll be playing, no problems. But when they grow older, you know, they become uncomfortable one with another. So even black and white, these are things that we don't usually put on the table openly, but I wanted to say maybe we need a rethink in terms of strategy. Who needs this ethics education most? Is it the kids or is it us?
Very provoking question. I think when I am basically a teacher educator, and I usually talk to myself and teachers. Well, actually, when it comes to talk about character development, it should go to us first. We need to talk to ourselves and reflect from time to time to see whether we are good enough in terms of being a teacher in a school to role model what is appropriate to be a member of society, which I think it becomes more and more important to link moral education, ethics education, character building in the school and in the society. So through interactive classroom, talking about behavior, talking about what happened in the community is so important to build the students' character. So I always look at the adult first, whether we have been appropriate enough to say ourselves as an educator, because we are the picture of the next generation. I hope it helps us, not just my sister there, but it's helping us as adult, as educator.
Thank you. Thank you. I think with this reflection that is deeply transformative. I mean, transformation has to start from us. Indeed. We cannot expect it to start from outside. Thank you for participating to this side event. In terms of learning, we are launching a fellowship on ethics education, and the Ministry of Indonesia and the Ministry of Kenya will be part of that. As we have said, the learning is very important, and giving opportunities to teachers to strengthen the skills to learn about how concretely foster ethical reflections in the classroom, it is a key. So this is our auspice that this pilot program could then be scaled up, and we are monitoring and documenting the lessons to this purpose. So thank you very much, and have a good continuation of the pre-summit. Thank you.